2, 1.
Hello everyone, I am Quacksilver, and this is Ender LILIES Subspirits Only. Ender LILIES is a new Metroidvania by Binary Haze, and in this run, Subspirits Only, we're going to be getting the earliest of 3 available game endings, with the additional restriction of only using Subspirits, as we'll talk about in a little bit. The game divides your weapons, basically, your spirits, into 2 categories. Those you get from major bosses, and those you get from minor bosses, or sub-spirits. We're going to throw our basic attack that the game starts us with away at the earliest possible opportunity, and we're going to beat the game with only sub-spirits. The critical difference is most of your basic attacks, your major spirits, have infinite uses, and your sub-spirits do not. So the route is based around how we manage our damage. Cool. I think I'm good to get started here. We'll start in 3, 2, 1, go. So, right away, some of the stuff that I'm doing is basic movement tech that will apply across the whole run. The biggest thing to note is you see in the bottom left of my screen, I've got actually 2 different weapon loadouts. I got the bad damage boost. 2 different weapon loadouts that I'm constantly switching between. Switching between your weapon loadouts is overpowered in this game as a lag reduction tool. So after most of my movement actions, I'm going to be swapping loadouts to cancel some of the end lag. Another tech that you see here is as you climb up ledges in this game, you can heal, of which Lily's got 3 in the top left corner there. To climb up the ledge instantly, which saves a fair bit of time across the run. Those are the basic, like, sort of movement things that get a little expanded upon, but are going to be omnipresent in this run. The source of damage in the bottom right, or bottom left corner rather, is Umbral Knight, who is our basic attack and also sort of the narrator of this game. And the Subspirits Only run does not like him very much. So we are going to be getting rid of him as soon as we fight our first boss. Taking a lot of damage here. We just power through these this tutorial area. It's very Soulsian, I guess, as a game, and that a lot of what we're going to be doing is just trying to scoop by most enemies, except for those that we will try to kill. To get XP, you see the big level in the top left corner of my screen there. Alright, so we're coming up on the first boss here. Sigrid is basically a cutscene. We just mash our attack at her. Because we don't have cooldowns or maximum casts and things that will happen later with most of our things. So we're just gonna mash Umbral Knight. Much like with movement, switching loadouts lets me reset the internal cooldown on Umbral. So we can do damage even faster. After half of her health, she gets big. She's gonna die. Yeah, okay. So we damage boost off of her there. You don't want to see the charging attack, because it eats up a lot of time, and she's big enough that you can't get over her. That's the tutorial area. Now we can actually play the game. So Sigrid is somewhat unique in that she is a major boss in some respects in this game, but a minor boss in others. And the biggest reason she's a minor boss is because instead of giving us a main spirit, she gives us a sub-spirit on death, which is what makes this run possible, really. She also gave me the double jump, which is, you know, kind of useful. So you can see my sub-spirits are orange, my main spirits are red, we took Umbral Knight off, and now the run can begin. So the real things, the last little bit of movement tech that's going to be everywhere, is as I double jump and flop, if I have an available sub-spirit cast, I can use it to instantly recover instead of doing Lily's like landing animation that takes time. So in the overworld, we're going to be managing our spirit casts to make sure we have enough damage for the bosses, but are also able to move and collect XP on the way with them. Here in just a sec, we're going to get more casts. These red flowers, I think that's the only one we actually use in this run. They refuel your spirit casts. Alright, here's the first minor boss of the run. Cliffside Hamlet Youth. I like to call him Fluke Youth because he looks kind of like the enemies in Hollow Knight. We're just going to herd him over to the corner and trap him here. And he's big enough as a body that he can get hit by both the front swing and the back swing of Sigurd's mace. So he dies rather quickly. Fortunately, the early game bosses have very little health, which is good because we only had 13 casts to actually kill him in. So right away, the game presents you with a choice. There are two main areas we can get to. Right at the beginning of the game, we're going to be taking the lower path here and going into the Witches Thicket. Each of the two main areas has a major boss at the end of it, and we will need to beat both of them. But because of the way that enemy scaling works in this game, it's tied to the major boss of the area. So we're actually going to be going into Witches Thicket, getting all of the Subspirits, which don't, cause scaling. Then going back to the other area, clearing it out in full, and only then returning to the major boss of the thicket. These fungal sorcerers have the most confusing hitboxes ever. You can basically jump through them in a lot of respects. Don't walk forward. Thank you. Alright. Cool. Take safety heal. Just because you can be obnoxious. Yeah. Alright. Coming up on our next boss, the Fungal Sorcerer is just essentially a big version of the little fungals that we've seen. While we're on our way up, I'll talk about the Blight System. So there are two major damage upgrades to track across this run. One is Lily's level, like I previously mentioned. We're going to be killing a lot of enemies on our way in order to increase it. That's just sort of a flat damage upgrade. The second upgrade system is Blight, which there's two kinds. One that upgrades your main spirits, and one that upgrades your sub-spirits. Obviously, we only care about the one. So we're looking for a resource called Stagnant Blight, of which I've used my first 10. Did we get him? Okay, at least we got him. I used my first 10 to upgrade the Cliffside Hamlet Youth a little while ago. We're going to be very Blight hungry across the course of this run. It's also possible to double hit the Fungal Sorcerer, but it's a little finicky. He's not nearly as wide as the Cliffside Hamlet Youth, and I think I'm going too far into him. The number of teleports he gives in between attacks and the number of attacks he gives in between teleports is unfortunately random. So sometimes he just decides to teleport like 5 or 6 times in a row, and there's nothing we can do about it. Especially given that we have cooldowns to deal with. The worst is when he teleports right as your spirits come off cooldown. Fortunately, this game has a save warping feature, so we're allowed to just sort of quit out right away get back to our last bench, or respite, without having to worry about going through the main menu, which is kind of neat. One last thing to bear mention before we get to, I think all of the systems are out on the table. I'm going to be picking up my first relic here in just a second. Relics work very similar to the charm system in Hollow Knight or the badge system in Paper Mario, where you have a certain number of relic slots. You start the game with 2, and you can equip relics. Each has a certain slot cost. Nice damage boost. That actually worked for us. You can equip relics up to your maximum relic slot cost. We're going to be getting 2 extra slots and a handful of relics across the whole run. So that was Manus's ring that I just picked up. I'll equip it a little later. It increases the maximum number of spirit casts I am allowed. So in this run, it is a straight up damage buff. We'll also be grabbing a couple of health upgrades across the run. That's mostly a marathon safety thing, although some of them are just routed in. Because the late game bosses in this run can kill you dead quite quickly. This is Floral Sorceress. She doesn't move, she just casts at you. She's a pretty quick fight. Alright. So this next split is quite long, and it's mostly just we double back to the beginning, to the crossroads that we started at, and we're going to take the upper path this time and grab a little bit of Blight, one more Subspirit, and a couple of other, or a lot of XP, but it's mostly just moving across several screens, so now would be an ideal time for donations if we have any.
Oh, we have a lot of donations coming in here.
Heck yeah.
We had $5 from Nyx with no comment. We had $5 from Tabby Paws that says gamer. We have another $5 from Floofy that says let's go duck, yippee. Thank you all so much, and I do want to mention again that we are now sitting at $35 out of $150 for that malady incentive to increase the difficulty. So keep those donations coming. We got this.
Heck yeah. Alright, there's one jump there that's like very finicky that you can go for. It saves a fair bit of time because you don't have to walk around, but you also don't get the XP from these enemies. So it's a little bit risk-rewardy. It's optimal to go for, but for Marathon, just went for it once and we'll take the XP instead. Oh, you turned around. Okay. Didn't get both. Alright, so I'm farming very aggressively here. We want to hit level 4 by our first major boss. It's not too bad to do so, but because it's pretty early in the run, the enemies don't give a ton of experience, and also not hitting level 4 now will sort of have compounding bad effects as we go on, so I may go a little bit out of my way to make absolutely certain I've got the farm. You also may have noticed across the past couple of screens that I've been breaking all of the pots and barrels and boxes that I see. Those can give you a variety of little quality of life things. They can give you a small amount of health back, or a small amount of spirit casts back. And this is trickier than it needs to be. They can also give you a small amount of blight, just not with him. And we route that in, actually. So part of the difficulty of the end of this run is it is possible to be short on random blight. It's very unlikely. It's the sort of thing that, while not quite that's never happened before, is I didn't expect that to happen moment, but there is no worse feeling than being like 2 blight short for your last upgrade right at the final boss. So, you know, fun spoilers there. I think I am mostly good on XP here. I think I'll kill the dog here, and... Oh, you're kidding me. Alright, we're gonna get back up here. Okay, this is Headless Defender. Headless Defender is annoying because he parries attacks with his giant shield. So you want to hit behind him, and also use Fungal Sorcerer, because Fungal can't be blocked. He also has a weird AI bug, which thankfully it looks like we're not going to see, where he can, if you use Lily's dodge while he's in the middle of his dash attack, he will automatically teleport to the left side of the arena and attack instantly, which can be very frustrating. Bosses in this game, as you may have noticed, die where they stand. There's no, like, centered arena or centered place they return to when they die, so you obviously want to kill bosses as far in your direction of motion as possible, which makes him teleporting to the far left edge a little obnoxious. We got just a couple of upgrades left. There's a Chain of Sorcery, that's what gets us more relic slots. Gonna get one last bit of Blight. And we're gonna go on to our first major boss here, Garad, or Jared, or Gerard. I have heard it pronounced literally all of the ways. Enhancing you. He's a big man with a big hammer, and he likes jumping around with his big hammer. He is relatively consistent as far as boss fights go. No, like, random teleporting or things. It's mostly just about getting him up in the air and then swatting him out of the air. Piling on damage while he's on the ground. So let's talk about air staggers. The purple bar below the boss's health is their stagger bar. When it empties, they're briefly stunned. If they're in the air, they fall and take fall damage that is proportional to their health. So it is the most effective... it is the most effective way to deal with bosses. It does the most damage, and in some cases it is worth waiting for to get the air stagger instead of just piling on damage in the moment. Alright, we in phase 3? No. Cool. So all the major bosses, much like how Sigurd got quite big, they all have a last phase where they get obnoxious in some way. Jared starts hopping around like a maniac. I'm gonna go for it. Yeah, that was a mistake. Oh well. Ground stagger, that's fine. You're almost dead. Jared can either, in his last phase, either do 2 or 3 hops. And then he'll mix in another attack. That should do it. Yep. That's Jared. Jared gives us a massive hammer swing attack that does a ton of damage, a ton of stagger, and we can't use because it's a major spirit, alas. But he also gives us the ground slam ability, which we're going to need to traverse some of the overworld in a little bit. And the reason we did Jared, we cleared out all of our available subspirits. Well, all but one, but one is not worth getting. The reason we did Jared last before heading back to Thicket is because Jared is the key that makes the scaling happen. And so we want everything as unscaled as possible. Now we're going to walk down to Elaine, who is the next major boss. This is another section of just sort of farming Blight, farming XP. If we got a couple more donations, this is a great time.
We most certainly do. We had $25 come in from Soctopus that says, "Good luck and have fun, Quack. Your favorite cephalopod is rooting for you."
Heck yeah.
And we also had $5 from Eye of Newt. I wonder who that is. That says, "Choo choo. Let's keep that donation train going. We're getting so close to hitting that Malady incentive." I know we got this.
Alright, we had to stall there for a little bit because I really do want that XP because we're a little low already. The dream of dreams is to be able to hit level 6 by Elaine, but it's kind of tough to swing, and we had sort of bad luck with where the flying sorcerers fell. Enemies can drown. And if we get them in the water, it's good and free. And if we don't, then their health bars are just too big from the scaling to be able to die. So it looks like we won't be hitting 6, but I'm gonna try and farm aggressively. Something else you'll notice is Lily can walk on water, kind of. Which is to say that if you jump within the first 4 frames of you touching a water surface, Lily can sort of skate along it, which is faster than swimming. Alright, so we are not, in fact, level 6. That's fine. Nope. We do have a lot of Blight, though, which is quite good. 7 extra this early in the game is optimistic. So this is the Elaine fight. Elaine is a sorceress who flies. So the entirety of this fight is about trying to bait her as high up as possible and then drop her like a rock. If you get Elaine to fall from the top of the screen, it does, I think, 900 damage to her. That's a fine fall, I guess. When bosses only have a couple thousand health, 900 damage is all right. Perfect. In phase 2, she gets a new attack that's quite annoying. That's that windsaw pillar that can really complicate your movement in this fight. Especially if she likes to hang out on the wrong side of it. Go up. Thank you. Alright, phase 3. Phase 3 is much easier than the first 2 phases. She starts with this ultimate attack. And then, after every attack, she uses her claws like that, but the thing is that Defender will always stagger her, so you just go up and get some free damage. That's a lame. Alright, yeah, we're very, very close to level 8, which is the real breakpoint we want after Elaine, so that's not bad at all. Alright, those 2 bosses, Garad and Elaine, are the early access, were the early access sort of part of the game. And then they locked off the rest, and that's why it's sort of more linear up to Garad and Elaine. Like, it's those 2 linear areas, and then the map opens up, and so of course, because we're speedrunning, we're going to be ignoring all of that fact. The dev-intended sort of route for the next little bit of the game is we're going to follow it for a little bit. We go open up a underground passageway, thanks to Jared's ground slam ability, and also Elaine, who gives us the ability to swim underwater instead of Lily being buoyant. So you're going to open up an underground passageway here, then go back around to where it connects up and swim out into the catacombs. The game really wants you to go around the catacombs, which is this giant sort of maze-like area. to get a head-on collision with that baby enemy. No, to sort of circumnavigate the catacombs, fight another major boss at the end of it, and pick up the dash ability, which replaces Lily's, like, kind of lame belly flop. Oh, that didn't hit you. That's fine. We'll get him on the way back. With a good dash, with good invincibility frames, it covers a much bigger distance. Just all-around upgrade. We're not going to do that, despite the fact that it is supposed to be necessary for the final stretch of the game here. Final stretch of the A ending, I should say. It is absolutely necessary for the final stretch of the game proper. Instead, we're going to be exploiting some mechanics much like that one. This is actually a nice little teaser there. Alright, I'm gonna wait for Fungal to come off cooldown here so that we can get that XP. You'll notice there I double jumped, belly flopped, and then used a Subspirit cast, which, much like it arrests your landing lag, it knocks, it puts Lily upright instantly, so she can grab ledges that way. So most of this run is actually about air stalls, and about how we can get to otherwise inaccessible areas. Headless Defender is an important air stall, but we're going to be grabbing the holy grail of air stalls in the Subspirits only run, right here. It's a little relic called Fretia's Ring. What Fretia's Ring does is it replaces your dodge ability. If you don't have a directional input held, it replaces it with a parry that keeps you afloat for a little bit longer. It stalls you in the air. Jared's Ground Slam, as the astute among you may have noticed, raises you up slightly at the beginning of the animation. So, we have achieved extra traversal. And we're going to be using it to cross this cliff. It's known as Bernard's Gap. That's Bernard, the crow down there. Et voila. Who needs a dash? And our reward is pain. This is the stockade. It's the last area we're going to see in this run, starting with this underwater mine section that is super obnoxious because you have to swim through the mines using the iframes you get from swimming. If you get hit by a mine, mines will two-shot Lily in this case. And we want to have heals left over because of a tech where if you spam heal while you're underwater, Lily swims a little faster. So we're going to try and use that to get a good cycle here. We will see if I got it. Nope, just missed it. It's possible to, like, breakneck swim and save that, but I really don't want to get swatted away by that mine, so we're just going to follow behind him for a sec. Alright, we have one last section of just blight and upgrade collecting before the final gauntlets of this run. So if there are any final donations for this run, now is the optimal time.
We have exactly one that we can get in quick. We have $5 more from Nyx that says secondary donation to bless last jump for Miss Silver.
Thank you for the blessings. We will see. Alright, so we're running across these enemies. We're gonna farm in these pots to get us as much blight as we can get. Fortunately, the stockade is full of pots. Although that's kind of light on blight. We'll see. If we're really low, there's a backup we can take that loses a handful of seconds to get another actual deposit. We feel we must. Here I'm taking advantage of the fact that just entering the room with a bench gets it That's not a good number. Just entering the room with a bench unlocks it for your fast travel, so even though I didn't sit down at any of the benches in Stockade, I actually unlocked 2 of them. And now we move on to the final gauntlets. There are 3 final bosses to this run. Isn't that special? We're moving to Dark Executioner here. This room has been nicknamed Hellevator. In older patches of the game, it was possible for any of those 3 enemies to ride up the elevator with you and knock you off, so it has a bit of a reputation. They mostly patched out their ability to ruin your day like that, but I've been unlucky in the past. These Executioner guys that teleport around and generally have big hitboxes, we're gonna see a lot more of them. I hope you are all prepared to get sick of them. Yeah, this is not a good... Show me Blight. Show me not that kind of Blight. Jeez. I'm gonna heal to try and not get health from these pods. We'll see. So Dark Executioner is at the back of this sort of kill room, this combat gauntlet, which is quite obnoxious because if you die in it, the arena fully resets, and you have to do it all over again. So we're gonna sort of separate our foes one enemy at a time, maybe 2. Alright, cool. One more Executioner to get. Their long attack is quite long, it turns out. Alright, 1 counter should do it. Cool. Dark Executioner is like that, except he can do the Nothing Personnel Kid and teleport behind you, like that. So we're gonna sit in this corner of the arena, so that we have to deal with as little as possible of that shenanigans. Because if we're crammed in here, he can't actually teleport behind us. Alright. Got one last swing in there from the grave. That's what the health upgrades we've been collecting as safeties have mostly been about. If you're running the optimal route, he 2-shots you. It's very uncomfortable. But that's Dark Executioner. That's our last Subspirit we're gonna get. 52. Wow, game is like, you do not get nice things today. That's the lowest my Blight has ever been coming out of this. I may detour for an extra. I think we go for the Honir fight once, and if we have to abandon ship, we'll do it early. Because ideally we want an extra, we want to be 60 Blight there in order to upgrade Fungal as well. It just means we have to play this a little bit riskier. It's not the end of the world, although the extra damage is nice. It's mostly about the extra range of that attack. This is Honir. Honir runs away from you. He's very obnoxious. He also spawns in these ads consistently throughout the whole fight. So, ideally, right, we want to get him to walk through the entire cloud. No, I don't want to heal yet. We want him to walk through the entire fungal cloud. Oh, that's a stagger. Cool. Because that's our biggest source of damage if we can land all of the hits. In phase 2, he gains the ability to jump forward, which is quite obnoxious. Let's see if he does it here. Nope, he's going back again. Alright, that's a heal. And him jumping forward is quite obnoxious because we want him to go through the full... just too late on that. There's some damage. Is that phase 3? That's phase 3. Okay. God, there's a lot of you. In phase 3, Honir decides he is sick of running away from you and starts charging you in a way that is very unkind, and we've got, holy shit, so many ads. We're gonna heal out here for a sec. Much like with Elaine, the big parkour attack, if you counter it, Honir instantly staggers. This is the worst ad placement I have seen in a long time. I'll play this nice and slow. Alright, wake up this. Great. Should be dead? Yeah. Alright. That's what being low on Blight does to you. Okay, Honir's done. That's not the final boss, though. The final boss is one moment of serenity. The game really wants you to have dash, right, for the ending here. But we don't. Instead, we have the Garad slam cancels. We just got the hook shot from Honir. We have Headless Defender as an air stall. And we have a lot of luck. Let's go! Oh my god. That trick is not typically first tryable at all. There are like 4 very pixel-tight windows you need to hit. So shoutouts to Nyx, I guess, for absolutely blessing that jump. Game really wants you to have dash there. Went out of its way to make it difficult. That's the true final boss of the run. In ending A, there is no final boss proper. You've walked all the way to the left, and so this is time. You just purify some flowers, nope the heck out of Land's End, sayonara all the problems of the world. Yeah, this was... Wow, this was an ups and downs in the run. Thanks to everyone who donated in that, over the course of the marathon. Shoutouts to, Binary Haze for making a really cool Metroidvania with a lot of cool skips and a lot of cool restrictions you can put on. I guess we'll skip the spoilers for anyone who wants to play the game. Shout outs to the tri-country community for Subspirits. We got the US with me and Meatbag, France with Trex and Sunoka, and Japan with Akira and Iris pushing these categories. This has been a ton of fun, and I'm glad that I could share it with y'all.
GG. That was awesome.
Whew, that last jump. Alright. Yeah, and thanks to the Midwest Speedfest team for having me and for giving me the opportunity to put on this show for y'all. I hope everyone enjoyed.